Karnataka's former DG, a decorated officer, Om Prakash, was murdered, found in a pool of blood at his home, and the suspect is his wife, Pallavi. According to the Additional Commissioner of the Police, Vikas Kumar, says the motive behind the crime is yet not clear, but the police are questioning the former DGP's daughter, Kirti, along with his wife, of course. Both of them who were at home at that point when the stabbing happened. In fact, the daughter was in the floor above while the parents were below. This is the sketchy details that we have currently. 68-year-old officer Om Prakash, he hailed from Bihar's Champaran district, had quite a distinguished career in Karnataka police force, was stabbed to death. Murder weapon was recovered, which was a knife. In fact, shocking details claim that Pallavi herself confessed to the crime. She called in the police and said, "I've murdered my husband." Basically called her friend first and said, "I've killed a monster." Then the message went to the police. She confessed that I've committed the murder. You can come in to this house. They were at the house that was in fact allotted to them by the police department. He was a retired police officer, a very decorated one, I must say, at least through his career, he had a spotless image. In fact, Pallavi reportedly told the police that Om Prakash had been threatening her. Now remember, Pallavi on her part has many times sent out messages on police groups claiming that her husband Om Prakash has been trying to threaten her and her daughter, saying that they often get into fights and Om Prakash would hold a gun and move around the house trying to instill fear within the family members. Now, sources say Pallavi poured boiling oil on her husband, threw chilli powder at him and inflicted multiple stab wounds with both a broken bottle and a knife. This is what initial claims suggest. Forensic analysis reveal injuries to Om Prakash's chest and abdomen consistent with multiple stabbing incidents. In fact, they claim, as per investigation, that Pallavi called the wife of another officer soon after she committed this crime, and her first line to her was, "I've killed the monster." That friend then informed the police, and then the police arrived. Well, certainly heartbreaking. Now we're looking at such horrific incidents that are coming to fore, domestic violence turning fatal. Such crimes there, how could it be controlled, if at all it could be? If a situation like this arises and Pallavi has put out messages on groups that had police officers and their wives in it, could there have been early intervention? The big question here is, as much as people say that Pallavi is schizophrenic, she was undergoing treatment for a decade, could this entirely be blamed on her mental health? Was this revenge killing? Joining me to discuss more is Bhaskar Rao, former Commissioner of Police, Bengaluru, also Dr. Rachna Khanna, who's a clinical psychologist and a relationship expert, Brinda Adige, women's rights activist. Sir, Bhaskar Rao, you've been a top cop yourself. What I see here is devastating for the police fraternity. I could imagine what you may be going through. But how do you look at this investigation, sir? We know that the lady was allegedly schizophrenic. But if the husband is no more and the only primary witness here is the accused herself, how can the police really identify or verify her mental health, the motive and the truth behind her claims? The line of investigation.
At the outset, it is a very shocking incident. We are all in total disbelief because we all loved him as a boss and we all took good care of us. But as your pointed question, where you want to know the details of the investigation, it is the Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioner of Police Southeast, under whom the investigation is going on. They are the best judges in this matter. Sometimes when eyewitnesses are not there, circumstantial evidence as well as evidence which are there through technology are utilized to connect the crime and the criminal. This is a very sensational case, and police will definitely be very, very cautious in carrying out the investigation. But of course, truth cannot be suppressed.
Yeah.
As a police fraternity, both sir and madam, we are all close as family members. I visited their house several times. They have visited us, and when they were together, they looked very congenial. But we are not privy to what happens in the four walls of the house, what their thoughts and what their, because there's no business to get into those things. And every family has its own share of discords, dissents, argument, but it gets ultimately ironed out. But this has taken such a ghastly and horrific turn that it has put the entire fraternity, because Mr. Om Prakash, in police services, we are in touch with about 30 years before we have joined and 30 years after we have joined. Which means over a decade of almost half a century police officers are known to him. They have worked with him. And Mr. Om Prakash is a very professionally sound man, and he handled the Babri Masjid incidents in 1992 very well, and then the Bhatkal riots also, as well as the proposed what was a police strike which is going to take place. He created a lot of confidence. And as regards ordinary citizens are concerned, nobody would go back empty-handed from his office. They came with some grievance and they would go out. But what has happened at house, because we also know Pallavi madam very well and we have interacted with her, spoken to her, and we watched the children grow, etc. But what has happened, the entire police department shares the grief. But let investigation carry on.
Absolutely.
Because as you rightly said, there is no eyewitness, but circumstantial evidence and technological evidence and the mental condition of ma'am, etc.
Which is why, sir, my question is, there were several red flags that were raised. Pallavi, we hear, has put out several messages on groups which had police officers and their wives claiming that her husband has been physically and mentally torturing her, that he wields a gun and tries to threaten the family. These claims were flagged off months before this murder took place. Why wasn't it taken seriously? I will come to you, but just for the brief moment, if I could bring in the doctor, just for the brief moment, sir. I will come to you on that. But just for the brief moment, our doctor who's on the panel, ma'am, your take on a patient who suffers from schizophrenia. It seems like the reports now, investigative reports, claim that she's been receiving treatment for a decade. You know, could this be the reason? How does one distinguish between delusion and a cry for help? If she's basically put out messages saying that she's being harassed or tortured, one dismisses it as schizophrenic, that she's carried out this murder because she's schizophrenic. As a doctor, how do you look at it?
So, Nabila, the point is to go a little deeper to understand, to see that the levels of the frustration of the individual. Schizophrenia or any other mental health disorder or many mental health illness can maybe make you susceptible to more difficulties, but it does not necessarily mean that you're going to go and create a scene of murder, right? You can understand that maybe there was intense amount of frustration lying there, intense resentment, anger, possibly so, and there could have been many other things like that, many other unresolved issues. Possibly so, the needed help wasn't given at the hour, which allowed the resentment to go out of hand. So certainly, yes, the fact that she wasn't mentally very sound, coupled with the fact that obviously there is some possibly domestic violence there also. And you see, there's a very big study by the UN in 2023, Nabila, which states that 80,000 women were killed in 2023, out of which 60% were because of either by the in-laws or the husband. It's an international study. So you can totally understand, okay, this is in a reverse way where you're saying, okay, this woman has taken some action by killing somebody. But having said that, we do understand that post 2020, we saw an exponential rise in the courts itself. In our courts, in the Indian courts of domestic violence, the rates went up very heavily.
Correct.
And a lot of them
but as a doctor, Rachna, a quick take from you on poorly managed schizophrenia. Could schizophrenia lead and escalate to such level of violence? And we know that this was a domestic dispute, but could schizophrenia really reveal itself in such a way?
So that could not be the only reason, is what I am saying. Is in fact, she was obviously fairly functional if she was at home, else they would have put her in a hospital or in a mental rehabilitation center, and I'm sure she was under psychiatric treatment as well. So it would have been such major red flags. Possibly the doctors would have definitely seen the intensity of the anger or the gravity of how things were going. There is obviously a lot of emotional neglect, which does happen very many times in powerful households, and there's definitely a lot of fear instilled as well. So
how bad, ma'am, can schizophrenia get? How bad can it get? What's the worst that you've known of a patient suffering schizophrenia?
Well, it can get very bad, but I will not state and say that it is the only cause to go and create a crime. We have seen criminal mindsets we study, and there's a lot of places where I have seen criminals also, that does not mean they definitely have an underlying disorder. They could be mentally unwell, but does not mean that it's only psychotic
Okay.
disorders. Psychotic disorders, schizophrenia comes under psychotic
Right.
disorder.
So she could very well have schizophrenia, but that's not the reason to why she's committed this crime. And I think that's established. A quick word from Brinda Adige, ma'am. Cases of domestic violence, we know, we hear, Madam Rachna also gave us some stats. And now with this case, when a cop is a decorated cop, he's a celebrated police officer, he's unfortunately no more. In his absence, the wife claims that she was tortured, mentally, physically harassed, whatnot. Unfortunately for her, she also has schizophrenia. How would you look at this case if one dismisses that this lady was crazy?
Okay. First and foremost, I don't think I want to use the word crazy.
Yeah.
Secondly, we must understand that if there has been any kind of mental illness that this lady is suffering from, or the others claim that she's suffering from, it's probably built over years. It doesn't happen overnight. And like the psychologist pointed out just now, this is something that is probably triggered and starts off when you get married, or you have you live with a partner. And in India, domestic violence is always brushed off. In fact, our law also does not criminalize domestic violence. It is a remedial act. So it calls for all kinds of mediation and counseling and arbitration and things like that. Nowhere does it say that the partner or the husband or the spouse can be punished. Now, that said, even if she goes and makes a complaint at the police station saying that my husband, an IPS officer, and like Mr. Bhaskar pointed out, too many decorated stuff that is around him, which police is ever going to take a complaint of assault, physical assault, or violence? Nobody. They all want to also show that there is a facade of these people, police officers are not wife beaters. So all of that facade has also been maintained, which is maintained everywhere, but in this department probably even more. So as the wife of a police officer, you don't have too much space to go and make a complaint. You also pointed out, Nabila, that she has been reaching out or sharing information in some of those groups. So maybe because of that, she has gone out for help and getting treatment. Why hasn't the man been asked to go and get treatment? Probably the man also required it. Why is it the assumption is that when the perpetrator is making life miserable in the house for the wife, why is it that the wife is asked to go and take treatment but not the husband? So the man is never asked to go and take treatment. It's always the wife. How will it work? Because in that house, you have somebody who's powerful vis-a-vis the society and everything he has amassed over the years. There is a lot of respect. There is a lot of command that he can get anybody to do. Police will not be entering his house and saying, we got a complaint from you, no matter which helpline you call. Like they might come into my house or your house. So we need to understand that whatever might have been the situation in that house, both needed to have gone and asked for help and extended themselves for that kind of a support. It didn't happen. Now saying that she has been going through all of this, and so this is revenge, this is a violent act. Let us understand that people who are schizophrenic can be violent even on themselves. Yeah. On themselves as well as on others. Here what we must find out is this case must be an eye-opener to say that if there are conflicts, which there are in every family, it is important for us to go out and ask for support and help. And it cannot be one member of the family. It has to be the couple and probably other members of the family also. And that said, I think we must be considerate when we are talking about
absolutely.
The person
point very well taken.
Committed this crime.
Mr. Rao, final word from you on Pallavi sending out many messages that clearly may have alarmed the police fraternity even before the murder took place. Do you believe that Pallavi was failed by the system itself that's in place? Many WhatsApp messages that was left ignored, people thinking it's crazy talk. Where is the mechanism to take such red flags seriously?
Today evening, even a number of us received an entire transcript of messages she sent across to a number of people as early as 13th of April.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of responsible people in that group who could have chosen to act. Means I'm saying it very.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably if someone had set the law into motion or had reached out to her, I was even told that because she was ranting out her personal issues in such a blatant manner, they even blocked her. Then some sense prevailed and she was unblocked. So somewhere this was not handled with an emotional support that it deserved to be handled, on
Yeah.
account of which we are criminalizing her, and a man's life also has been lost also with that.
Yeah.
And as our psychologist colleague on the board, Ms. Rachna was mentioning, that definitely sometimes they can become violent, but we are all in a state of denial. Probably the Director General of Police felt that no, everything is fine and hunky dory at home, and this will not take any such proportions. But you never know what could be a trigger if something takes a long time. But I must also tell you this disturbing trend in the past decade itself, where spouses have been killing each other for a variety of reasons, but we never knew that it can happen at such a powerful level. We have seen income IT youngsters killing their colleagues over there. We have seen people in financial capital, financial area killing themselves, or in other areas across all socio-economic groups. But what is shocking is that it can take place at this level also. So nobody is free from any kind of vulnerability if things are not fine at home.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar Rao, Dr. Rachana, and Brinda Adige for joining us and giving us valuable details. Let's hope this guides the investigation. I'm sure the investigation is in trusted hands and credible ones. We're looking forward to see what they find. Thank you.